Sri Lanka off-season travel script, the secret season nobody tells you about. What if I told you that the worst time to visit Sri Lanka is actually the best time, when you can have pristine beaches completely to yourself, save hundreds of euros, and experience the real Sri Lanka without the crowds? Most travelers avoid the monsoon season, but I'm about to reveal why that's the biggest mistake you can make. What's up, adventure seekers? Welcome back to Magnificent Must-Sees, where we uncover both iconic destinations and hidden gems that will transform your travel experiences. Today, I'm taking you inside Sri Lanka's off-season secret, a strategic travel approach that will save you massive amounts of money while giving you better experiences than peak season travelers ever get. This isn't about compromising on weather or settling for less. This is about understanding Sri Lanka's unique climate patterns and using them to your advantage. I've spent months researching Sri Lanka's monsoon cycles, and what I discovered will completely change how you plan your trip. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when to visit, which regions to explore, and how to travel across this incredible island for as little as 35 euros per day while avoiding every single tourist crowd. But here's the question I want you to keep in mind. Why do the smartest budget travelers deliberately choose the monsoon months? I'll answer this at the end, and it will blow your mind. Understanding the monsoon game changer. Here's something that will completely change your Sri Lanka strategy. There is no single rainy season that affects the entire island. This is the secret that unlocks everything. Sri Lanka is divided by two different monsoon patterns, which means while one side of the island is experiencing rain, the other side is enjoying perfect sunshine. Most tourists don't understand this, so they avoid Sri Lanka entirely during monsoon months. And that's exactly why you should be going. Let me break this down for you. The southwest monsoon, called Yala, runs from May to September. During these months, the south and west coasts, including popular spots like Gal and Marissa, experience heavy rainfall. But here's the game changer. While the southwest is wet, the east coast is having its absolute best weather. Places like Trincomalee and Arugam Bay are experiencing their peak dry season with perfect beach conditions. The northeast monsoon, called Maha, runs from October to January. During these months, the pattern reverses. The north and east coasts get rain, while the southern and western regions enjoy the best weather of the year. The famous South Coast beaches have perfect conditions from November to March. Here's what makes this strategy so powerful. The cultural triangle in the center of the island, home to ancient sites like Sigiriya and Polonnaruwa, remains relatively dry year-round. This means you can always combine beach time on whichever coast is dry with cultural exploration in the interior. The key insight is this. By planning your route based on regional weather patterns instead of avoiding the island entirely, you get the best of both worlds, perfect weather and off-season prices. While global tourism demand is low, you're experiencing optimal local conditions. Now I'm going to reveal the single best month for budget travelers flying from Europe to Sri Lanka, and the data on this is crystal clear. November is the absolute cheapest month to fly to Sri Lanka from Germany, with average round-trip costs of just 872 euros. Compare that to December at 1,148 euros, or July at 1,064 euros, and you're saving between 19% and 24% on your biggest single expense. But here's what makes November even more strategic. It marks the transition period when the southwest monsoon is ending and the northeast monsoon is just beginning. This means the famous south and west coasts are entering their dry season with perfect weather, while you're still getting off-season prices on everything else. The timing is perfect. You arrive just as the south coast is drying out. You get to experience the tail end of the lush green landscapes created by the monsoon rains, and the waterfalls are at their most spectacular. The tourist crowds haven't arrived yet, but the weather is already improving. Here's the insider strategy. Book your November flight as early as possible. Plan to spend your first few days on the south coast as it transitions to dry season, then work your way through the cultural triangle and finish in the highlands where the cooler temperatures are perfect year-round. This single timing decision can save you 200 to 300 euros on flights alone. And that's before we even talk about the savings on accommodation and activities. The accommodation revolution. The off-season accommodation strategy is where your budget transforms from expensive to incredibly affordable, and it all comes down to one word: homestays. Forget hotels, forget resorts. The secret to authentic, affordable Sri Lankan travel is staying with local families in homestays, and during the off-season, these become even more valuable. Let me give you real numbers. In Ella, one of Sri Lanka's most beautiful highland towns, you can stay at Chamodya Homestay for just 3,500 rupees for 2 nights. That's about 10 euros per night, and it includes a home-cooked breakfast made by your host family. In Nuwara Eliya, the heart of tea country, accommodations like Medellin Lake Gregory cost around 23 to 24 euros per night. In Sigiriya, near the famous rock fortress, Lucky Villa Sigiriya offers the same price range. Even in Negombo, close to the airport with pool access and airport transfer included, you're looking at just 37 euros at the Villa Green Inn. But here's what makes homestays truly valuable. You're not just saving money. You're gaining authentic cultural experiences that hotel guests never get. Your hosts become your local guides, teaching you about Sri Lankan culture, cooking traditional meals, and sharing insider knowledge about the best places to visit. During the off-season, when homestay owners have fewer guests, they have even more time to spend with you. The experience becomes more personal, more authentic, and more memorable. The negotiation power shifts to you during off-season. With lower occupancy rates, you can often negotiate even better rates, especially for longer stays. A simple conversation can save you an additional 10 to 20%. Here's the strategy. Book your first night in advance to have a guaranteed place when you arrive, then book subsequent accommodations as you travel. This flexibility allows you to extend stays in places you love and move on quickly from places that don't resonate. Now I'm going to show you exactly how to travel Sri Lanka for 35 euros per day or less, covering everything from accommodation to food, to transport to activities. Let's break down the extreme budget approach first. Accommodation in homestays costs 10 to 15 euros per night, and this usually includes breakfast. That's your first meal covered. For food, this is where Sri Lanka becomes incredibly affordable. Local Sri Lankan food is not just cheap, it's delicious and nutritious. A plate of rice and curry, which is the national dish, costs around 1 to 2 euros. Hoppers, which are bowl-shaped pancakes, cost just 15 cents each. Roti costs similar amounts. If you eat like locals eat, rice and curry for lunch, hoppers or roti for dinner, fruit from markets for snacks, you can easily keep your daily food budget between 5 and 8 euros. And you'll be eating better food than tourists paying 20 euros for mediocre Western meals in tourist restaurants. Transport is where Sri Lanka really shines for budget travelers. The bus and train system is extensive, reliable, and incredibly cheap. A long-distance bus journey across the island might cost 2 to 3 euros. Train journeys, even the famous scenic routes through the tea country, cost just a few euros in second class. For example, the train from Colombo Fort to Hikkaduwa costs just 160 rupees. That's about 50 cents. The famous scenic train from Nanu Oya to Ella costs 1,000 rupees in first class, which is about 350 euros, but second class is even cheaper and offers a more social experience with locals. Activities and entrance fees vary, but many of Sri Lanka's best experiences are free or very cheap. Beaches are free. Hiking is free. Watching tea pickers in the highlands is free. Even major cultural sites like Sigiriya Rock Fortress, while not cheap at about $30, can be balanced by days of free activities. Here's the realistic daily budget breakdown. 10 to 15 euros for accommodation, 5 to 8 euros for food, 2 to 5 euros for transport, and 5 to 10 euros for activities. That puts you at 22 to 38 euros per day for an extreme budget approach. If you want more comfort, you can upgrade to 25 to 40 euros for accommodation, 10 to 15 euros for food including some restaurant meals, 10 to 20 euros for transport including some tuk-tuks, and 15 to 30 euros for activities. This comfort budget of 60 to 105 euros per day still costs less than basic travel in most European countries. Transportation in Sri Lanka isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about experiencing the country authentically while keeping costs incredibly low. Let me show you how to master Sri Lankan transport. The train system in Sri Lanka is legendary, and for good reason. These trains were built by the British during colonial times, and they connect most major destinations across the island. But more importantly, train journeys in Sri Lanka are experiences in themselves. The journey from Kandy to Ella through the tea country is considered one of the most scenic train rides in the world. You'll pass through misty mountains, tea plantations that stretch to the horizon, and small villages clinging to hillsides. And in second class, this incredible journey costs just a few euros. Here's the insider tip: don't book first class. Second class is where you'll meet locals, share snacks, have conversations, and experience real Sri Lankan hospitality. The seats are comfortable enough, the windows open for fresh air and photos, and the social atmosphere is unbeatable. For routes where trains don't go, buses are your answer. Sri Lankan buses are an adventure. They're often crowded, the music is loud, and the driving is enthusiastic. But they're incredibly cheap, frequent, and they go everywhere. The key to bus travel is understanding the system. There are government buses and private buses. Government buses are cheaper but slower, stopping frequently. Private buses cost slightly more, but are faster and slightly more comfortable. For long distances, look for intercity express buses. Now let's talk about tuk-tuks, because this is where many budget travelers waste money. Tuk-tuks are convenient for short distances, but drivers often quote tourist prices that are 3 to 5 times higher than fare rates. Here's your tuk-tuk strategy. Always use your phone's GPS to check the actual distance before negotiating. A fare rate is about 50 to 100 rupees per kilometer, depending on the area. In tourist areas, drivers will initially quote 500 rupees for a journey that should cost 150 rupees. The negotiation technique is simple. Check the distance, calculate a fair price, offer slightly below that, and be willing to walk away. There's always another tuk-tuk driver nearby, and they'd rather take a fair fare than no fare at all. During the off-season, tuk-tuk drivers have fewer customers, which actually works in your favor. They're more willing to negotiate because they need the business. For longer journeys or day trips, you can hire a tuk-tuk driver for the entire day. A fair full-day rate is around 3,000 to 4,000 rupees, about 10 to 13 euros, which is excellent value if you're visiting multiple sites. The regional strategy. Now I'm going to reveal the exact regional strategy that lets you experience perfect weather year-round in Sri Lanka by understanding which coast to visit when. If you're traveling between May and September during the Yala monsoon, your strategy is clear. Focus on the East Coast and the Cultural Triangle. Start in Trincomalee, one of the finest natural harbors in the world, where you'll find pristine beaches, incredible snorkeling, and the famous Koneswaram Temple, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Trincomalee in July has only 4 rainy days and 11 hours of sunshine per day. These are perfect beach conditions, while the rest of the world thinks Sri Lanka is experiencing monsoon. Move south along the east coast to Arugam Bay, one of the world's best surf spots. During the Yala monsoon, Arugam Bay is in its prime season with consistent waves and sunny weather. The village has a laid-back vibe, excellent vegetarian and vegan food at places like Food Point, and a community of surfers and travelers from around the world. The Cultural Triangle, Sigiriya, Polonnaruwa, Anuradhapura, remains relatively dry during the Yala monsoon. This is actually the perfect time to visit these ancient sites because the tourist crowds are minimal. You can climb Sigiriya Rock Fortress without the usual masses of people, making for better photos and a more contemplative experience. Here's the insider secret. The Yala monsoon in the south and west doesn't mean constant rain. It means short, intense afternoon showers followed by sunshine. If you're flexible and don't mind occasional rain, you can still visit the south coast during these months and have beaches almost entirely to yourself. If you're traveling between November and March during the Maha monsoon, your strategy reverses. Focus on the south and west coasts. This is when Galle, Mirissa, Unawatuna, and Hikkaduwa have their best weather. Galle Fort is magical during this period. Perfect weather, the historic Dutch fort glowing in the sunshine, and the surrounding beaches ideal for swimming. Marissa offers whale watching from November to April, with blue whales and dolphins frequently spotted just offshore. The highlands, Ella, Nuwara, Alaya, Kandy, are accessible year-round, but they're especially beautiful during and just after the monsoon periods when everything is lush and green. The waterfalls are at their most spectacular, the tea plantations are vibrant, and the cooler temperatures provide relief from coastal heat. Here's a specific off-season route that maximizes weather and minimizes crowds. Fly into Colombo in November, spend 2 to 3 days on the south coast as it transitions to dry season, move inland to the Cultural Triangle for 3 to 4 days, head to the highlands for 3 to 4 days to see waterfalls and tea country, then return to the south coast for final beach days before flying out. This route gives you perfect weather throughout, costs significantly less than peak season, and avoids crowds at every major site. The food strategy. The food strategy in Sri Lanka is where budget travel becomes not just affordable but absolutely delicious. Sri Lankan cuisine is one of the world's great undiscovered food cultures, and eating local is both the cheapest and best option. Rice and curry is the foundation of Sri Lankan cuisine, and it's nothing like the curry you know from Indian restaurants. A typical rice and curry meal includes rice, dal, lentil curry, several vegetable curries, a meat or fish curry if you eat meat, papadum and sambals, spicy condiments. This complete nutritious meal costs 200 to 400 rupees. That's 1 to 2 euros. Hoppers are Sri Lanka's most iconic breakfast food. These bowl-shaped pancakes made from fermented rice flour are crispy on the edges and soft in the center. An egg hopper, with an egg cooked into the center, costs just 50 rupees, about 15 cents. Add some sambal and you have a perfect breakfast for under €1. Kotu roti is Sri Lankan street food at its finest. Chopped roti is stir-fried with vegetables, eggs, and meat or fish, creating a dish that's filling, flavorful, and costs around 300 to 500 rupees, 1.50 to 2.50 euros. Here's the insider food strategy. Eat at local restaurants where you see Sri Lankan families eating. These places, often called hotels even though they're just restaurants, serve authentic food at local prices. Avoid restaurants with picture menus in English. Those are tourist traps with inflated prices. Markets are your friend for fresh fruit. Sri Lanka's tropical climate produces incredible mangoes, papayas, pineapples, bananas, and more exotic fruits like rambutan and mangosteen. A kilogram of mangoes costs about 200 rupees, less than €1, providing healthy snacks for days. During the off-season, especially May to October, you'll find incredible tropical fruits that are at their peak. Durian, mangosteen, and jackfruit are abundant and cheap during these months. The tea culture in Sri Lanka deserves special mention. This is one of the world's great tea-producing nations, and a cup of Ceylon tea costs just 50 to 100 rupees in local tea shops. Visit tea plantations in the highlands to see how tea is made and buy high-quality tea directly from estates at a fraction of what you'd pay at home. The hidden gems. Now I'm going to reveal the hidden gems that most tourists miss. The places where off-season travel really shows its value because you'll have these incredible experiences almost entirely to yourself. Sera Ella Waterfall in the Matale district is one of Sri Lanka's most spectacular waterfalls, and it's at its most powerful during and just after the monsoon season from November to March. What makes this waterfall special is that you can walk behind it through a cave system, even when the water is at full flow. The steps are safe and well maintained, creating an experience that feels like an adventure movie. The best part? This waterfall is off the main tourist trail, so even during what would be considered peak season elsewhere, you'll share it with just a handful of other visitors. The Amba estate near Ella offers deep insights into tea culture that you won't get from the famous tea factories. This smaller estate provides intimate tours where you can interact directly with tea pickers and processors, learning the entire journey from plant to cup. During the off-season, these tours are even more personal because the guides have more time to spend with fewer visitors. Wilpattu National Park is Sri Lanka's largest national park and offers a superior safari experience to the overcrowded Yala National Park. Wilpattu is known for its natural lakes called Willis, and has healthy populations of leopards, elephants, and sloth bears. The best time to visit is during its dry season from February to October. Here's why Wilpatu is perfect for off-season travelers. While Yala National Park suffers from what locals call the Colombo traffic jam of safari jeeps during peak season, Wilpatu remains peaceful year-round. You'll have genuine wildlife encounters without dozens of other vehicles crowding around every animal sighting. The East Coast beaches during the Yala monsoon, May to September, are absolutely pristine. Arugam Bay, Trincomalee, and Pasacuda offer white sand beaches, clear water, and perfect weather, while the rest of the world thinks Sri Lanka is experiencing monsoon. You'll have these beaches almost to yourself, with just a few surfers and travelers who understand the regional weather patterns. The cultural triangle during the off-season is transformative. Sigiriya Rock Fortress without crowds means you can actually contemplate the incredible engineering and artistry of this 5th century palace. The frescoes of the Sigiriya Maidens, the mirror wall with ancient graffiti, and the lion's paws at the final ascent all become meditative experiences rather than rushed photo opportunities. Polonnaruwa's ancient ruins spread across a large area, and exploring them by bicycle during the off-season means you'll often have entire temple complexes to yourself. The Gal Vihara, with its stunning rock-cut Buddha statues, becomes a spiritual experience when you're not fighting crowds for photos. Off-season travel in Sri Lanka requires some additional safety and health considerations, but with the right preparation, you'll be perfectly safe and healthy throughout your journey. The monsoon season brings increased mosquito activity, which means a higher risk of dengue fever. Dengue is a serious concern in Sri Lanka, so mosquito protection is absolutely essential. Use insect repellent with at least 30% DEET. Wear long sleeves and pants during dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. And sleep under mosquito nets if your accommodation doesn't have screens. In addition to standard vaccinations, make sure you're protected against hepatitis A and B, typhus, and tetanus. These are recommended for all travelers to Sri Lanka regardless of season, but they're especially important during monsoon months when waterborne illnesses can be more common. The monsoon rains, particularly the southwest monsoon from May to September, can cause landslides in the hill country. If you're traveling in areas like Nuwara Elaya, Ella, or the roads between these highland towns, stay informed about weather conditions and be prepared to adjust your plans if authorities issue warnings. Here's the critical safety app you need. Vedur isn't just for Iceland. Sri Lanka has its own weather apps that locals use. Download a reliable Sri Lankan weather app before you arrive and check it daily. These apps will warn you about heavy rain, potential flooding, and unsafe travel conditions. The flexibility mindset is essential for off-season travel. Have backup plans for every day of your itinerary. If heavy rain makes beach activities impossible, have an indoor alternative ready. If a road becomes impassable due to flooding, know your alternative routes. Here's the insider health tip. Drink lots of water, but only bottled or purified water. The combination of tropical heat and monsoon humidity means you'll dehydrate faster than you expect. Carry a reusable water bottle and refill it with bottled water throughout the day. Food safety is generally excellent in Sri Lanka, but during monsoon season, be extra cautious about street food that's been sitting out. Choose food that's freshly cooked and still hot. The rice and curry at local restaurants is always freshly prepared and safe. Travel insurance is non-negotiable for off-season travel. Make sure your policy covers medical evacuation, because if you do get seriously ill or injured in a remote area during monsoon season, you may need to be transported to Colombo for proper medical care. Remember the question I asked at the beginning. Why do the smartest budget travelers deliberately choose the monsoon months? Here's the answer, and it's going to change how you think about travel forever. The smartest budget travelers understand that the monsoon isn't a bug in Sri Lanka's travel system, it's a feature. They know that bad weather is actually just different weather, and by understanding regional patterns, they can experience perfect conditions while everyone else stays home. They choose monsoon months because they understand that lower global demand means lower prices on everything. Flights, accommodation, activities. While local conditions in the right regions are actually optimal, they're getting the best weather at the lowest prices. They choose monsoon months because they value authentic experiences over Instagram-perfect moments. They'd rather have a pristine beach to themselves with a chance of afternoon rain than share a crowded beach with perfect weather. They choose monsoon months because they understand that the lush, green landscapes created by monsoon rains are actually more beautiful than the dry season. The waterfalls are more spectacular, the tea plantations are more vibrant, and the entire island feels more alive. Most importantly, they choose monsoon months because they've learned that the best travel experiences come from going against the crowd, from understanding what others don't, and from being flexible enough to adapt to conditions rather than demanding that conditions adapt to them. This is the secret that separates travelers who merely visit places from travelers who truly experience them. Sri Lanka's off-season isn't a compromise. It's a strategic advantage that transforms your travel experience while saving you hundreds of euros. This approach rewards the curious, the flexible, and the adventurous. Here's my challenge to you. Stop planning your Sri Lanka trip based on when everyone else goes. Instead, look at the regional weather patterns. Choose the coast that's dry during your travel window and experience this incredible island the way smart travelers do. Book that November flight while prices are low. Stay in homestays where you'll make genuine connections with Sri Lankan families. Eat rice and curry at local restaurants where the food is authentic and delicious. Take the train through the tea country in second class where you'll meet locals and make friends. Visit Sigiriya when you can actually appreciate it without crowds. Which part of this off-season strategy surprised you most? Are you ready to experience Sri Lanka the smart way? Drop a comment below and tell me which region you want to explore first. The East Coast beaches, the Cultural Triangle, or the misty highlands. If this video changed how you think about monsoon season travel, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. I'm constantly discovering strategies like this that help you travel better for less, and I want you to be the first to know about them. Sri Lanka is waiting for you. Not during the crowded, expensive peak season, but during the strategic off-season when you can experience this incredible island the way it was meant to be experienced. The question is, are you smart enough to go when everyone else stays home?